And we are back. All right, let's talk about mobile analytics. Let's go and switch it over there.
Just a second.
Yo.
I noticed that this one that's highlighted, it says terminated instead of stopped. What's the difference between them?
Well, we just happen to have 3 instance states running here. Let's go from the top. Running is we have turned on the server and it's actually available and online. Stopped is we have gone to the server and said, please stop charging me. And it goes, no troubles at all.
Right.
And it says, I am going to... Any data stored on the ephemeral storage of your instance will be lost. So when you provision a server, we'll go into this more in depth later on, but when you launch an instance and get it provisioned, you have your initial hard drive with it, and you can add on another hard drive if you want.
Okay.
And that second one goes away. Unless you took a backup of it manually. But the base one, what it's doing right now with stopping is it's taking an image of itself and then storing that somewhere else.
Cool.
So then
like hibernating sort of.
Yeah, hibernating, but making sure it's not powered on anymore.
Cool.
So now we can pick on a different one and come along and go instance actions. It won't let me pick it because it was picked in the background there. So the one that's actually turning off is... Let me just press refresh on this. Can I get to it now? Probably not. You've still got that one selected. That's going to irritate me, so I can't change it. Okay, so stop. I never noticed that.
Stop.
You actually can't unselect it while it's doing something.
That's pretty interesting.
I never noticed that. Anyway, okay, cool. Stopping, it's now turning itself off. We could pick on this one and say turn yourself back on, and it would take that image of itself and that hard drive that it's got backed up, not the extra hard drive, but that main one, and reattach it onto another piece of hardware and turn itself back on. But terminated is the one that we did before, where we said delete it entirely.
Yeah, okay.
And it goes, no troubles at all. I am going to get rid of even this base hard drive that comes with it. It's just completely gone. Once it's gone, you cannot get it back. So if you accidentally...
what's the point of terminating it then instead of doing a stopped?
Loads of reasons. If you're... Can I leave it and say there are reasons? And we'll come back to that later when we talk about a different search. So there's so much to AWS. It's loads of fun. There's interconnections everywhere. Stuff. I just don't want to go too involved because this one's actually supposed to be at Mobile Analytics.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So let's switch over to Mobile Analytics. And while that is quickly loading up, I'm going to bring up a new tab and go AWS Mobile Analytics and find out what that gives us here. We'll click on the ad.
We'll give them that sweet revenue.
Oh yeah, charge them like Google give them 5 cents or something. So Mobile Analytics, what is it? It is a way of tracking what your users are doing in your apps. Now it's called Mobile Analytics, and we are developing here on a desktop machine, which doesn't really matter. If the mobile analytics part is you can always ask your device what it is, and you'll say like I'm an iPhone 6s Plus, or your Android will say I'm a Samsung Galaxy S5. When you ask a desktop, what device are you? What mobile device are you? It goes, I don't know, I'm an other.
Oh, okay.
And you go, okay, so other is desktop.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, anyway, but you can ask we're using a Surface Pro 4 here, we can ask it from a different way, what are you? And it says, I'm a Surface Pro 4 and I'm a desktop. And you go, oh, cool, thank you. But yeah, it's mainly designed for mobile, but really you can use it for anything. Alright, so we are going to use this because it can take care of the identification and authorization of our users. We'll only be using it for the identification to see that is this the same device we've already seen before. And it does use that through a service called Cognito, which we'll talk about a bit more in a second. And Mobile Analytics is so great because it'll capture whatever you want and it'll stream that data, any of the event data you want, over to S3. So then it'll save it as just raw JSON files. And the cool thing is they've got their free tier available to us, in which we are going to just be taking complete advantage of. 100 free event captures per month.
That's a lot.
Yeah, pretty much. If you go over that, then it's just going to charge you $1 per million afterwards. So if you had 100,000 users, how many events would we be able to do that per person? I actually didn't do the math on this one now. My brain is a bit fudged.
I don't know.
Like 10,000?
Fair few. Depends how fast you click.
Yeah, I'm just a bit nervous trying to do maths on the fly because I'm going to get it wrong anyway, so I'm just going to go a lot and leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, mobile analytics, pretty cool. Let's switch over to Photoshop here for a second. What are you giggling at?
Worried about doing maths on the fly.
Oh, come on,
dude. I can't do it either, man. That's why I dropped down in year 10.
Really?
No, I dropped out of maths.
Oh, okay.
Not
But you're a
school.
programmer.
I know. Don't ask me the logistics about it, man.
All right. So
Anyone can do it.
they can. Here, well, I could insert a wife joke there, I'm sure.
Oh, God.
My wife, not Nick's.
What? Yeah, well, I don't have one, so.
Alright, so here's my mobile phone. There's the screen. There's the little thumb
That's the
button.
P that you click on when you try to do something.
God,
It's P for press.
P for press. Oh, I didn't even see it was a P. It was just a really bad circle. Anyway, so there's our game running on our device. And when we tell it, we ask the device, who are you? The first thing it says is, do I have a Cognito ID assigned to me? Cognito ID. If it says I don't have a Cognito ID assigned to myself, then the mobile analytics will go off to the Cognito service, which is of course in the cloud, so it's all fluffy. And it'll say this is the app ID that I am supposed to be using. So I don't know who I am, but I know that this is my application. Please Cognito tell me who I am. So please Cognito give me an ID so I can find out who I should be telling myself I am. So it'll save that against your application. And basically it won't clear it until you actually manually clear it, which is like the user on their phone going into settings and saying cache.clear or app settings.clear. So until they do that, it's going to remember itself.
Cool.
And that's really cool because that means every time you do an event, let's say the application opens, it'll send this off to Mobile Analytics. So we'll have an event called app open. It'll take that Cognito ID, which I'm just going to call C ID. That's a D.
SIP.
It'll pass in the app ID so that it knows, you and I can look at it and know that it's the same application for this person. Then it'll pass in whatever else we want. In this case, we'll give it an event name. This is really bad. I'm really bad at this handwriting thing. And I'm trying to be a good handwriter.
That's why we use keyboards as a profession, man.
I love emails.
I hate emails.
Well, I hate getting so many of them, but at least I can type with. It's easier to read than my handwriting.
Yeah, true.
All right,
Unless
so
use wingdings.
all right, so it'll take all of this data, and it'll send that off to Mobile Analytics. And Mobile Analytics will also be in the cloud, a different cloud.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Ooh,
maybe it's a cloud in the cloud.
Or Cloudception. Alright, so Amazon will capture all of the events and it'll put it against a Cognito ID and an app ID, and it'll give us a way to see events as they're happening. Now it has a bunch of default reports which we'll go into in probably the next video. No, I'll probably go into in this video.
Alrighty.
But it'll also allow us to send our own custom events. So maybe in our case, we're going to do whenever the player clicks somewhere, whenever the the enemy sees the player, whenever the player finishes a level. And we can put in any extra information that we want, and we'll plan out all of those as we actually go into write them. But Mobile Analytics will also take all that raw data as the JSON format, and it'll save it to, if you want it to, you can save it to somewhere else. So it gives you two options: Redshift, which we won't be using, but
it's
if you,
a super cool name.
It is a pretty cool name. It is pretty cool. Which is a massively parallel processing database service. We won't be using that one in this series, but what we will be using is S3. So it'll take all of our data and it'll save it over to S3 for us. And while it is in S3, it'll pre-partition all of, I don't know why that's not erasing. I'm just going to pretend that I haven't written it. It'll put it into a data structure like this. It'll call it app ID. It'll go /2017 what month are we? We're in May, and we're the 28th, and it is currently 4 p.m. so 16 /. So it'll partition the data out by year, month, day, hour. So if you have loads and loads and loads of data coming in, which hopefully you do because you've got so many users on your application, woohoo, money, 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 you then have all of these JSON files already partitioned into the correct format. Now we'll talk more about partitioning when we get into DataBricks and actually Spark coding and why this is such a really cool piece that's already been done for us. But that is where we will stop this particular description of mobile analytics.
Alrighty.
Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Relationship between Redshift and DataBricks?
DataBricks,
is there any?
It's a separate company.
Yep.
It's a separate set of stuff. It's a different way of processing your data. DataBricks is able to process loads of different types, whereas Redshift says I must have it in this correct format. It is very structured. If you try to pass an array into a Redshift, Redshift would go, I have no idea what this is.
Okay.
Whereas if you pass an array into Mobile Analytics and then you read the JSON file of that into Spark, Spark, it's going to go, yes, I can deal with this, no troubles at all. Let me flatten that array out for you.
So DataBricks is a front end for Spark?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. And when we get into it, we will talk a bit more about that.
Alright, fantastic.
There's always just so much of this. You ask a question, it's because yes, we'll get to that later. I'm sorry, Nick. I love that you're so keen to learn. It's just, I just want to keep it on track.
No, fair enough.
Okay, so mobile analytics, this is what we're going to set up in the next video. We'll get ourselves the app setting up to grab its app ID and Cognito ID, and then we'll set up one quick event and we'll push that over to mobile analytics, and then we'll save that out to S3.
Fantastic, cool.
Great, so let's quickly jump into the mobile analytics. So this is for the a different app that we had going before. What it quickly has is, this is just the default stuff it gives you by default. It's default stuff it gives you by default. Good sentence structure, Richard.
Yeah, well.
It'll tell you the daily active users, the monthly active users, how many of them are new, going by day, how often they're coming back, how many sessions you're having per day. So it gives you loads of default...
Factor.
Sticky factor is a fun one.
I do like that word.
It's closity. It'll give you loads of different metrics like this by default. But the real power of it is that it lets us have custom events and our own individual things. So let's go to app name. If you are setting this up for the first time when you come into mobile analytics, I had it on my shortcut menu up the top, which you would go to services and type in mobile and it'll be mobile analytics. Deliberately not trying to type in mobile ANAL and stop. But if you wanted to pin it, then you would come up to the top pin and click on that, and then it'll give you all of the different services. So you you want something else like DynamoDB attached up to the top.
Beanstalk.
Beanstalk is fun.
Bean search.
I'm going to get rid of that anyway for the sake of just, yes, if you wanted to add it there, you could. Alright, so if you go to app name, you might not have one. Maybe you'll have add an app. So we'll go add an app. And it'll say, what do you want this one to be called? We'll call this 3D Buzz Game Analytics. And what's the app name? App name can be stuff. Okay, cool. Good description, Richard. That is the front-end name that it's going to give us. Now, in this, it's going to say, awesome, what system are you going to be using this on? An iOS app, or an Android, or a JavaScript, or a Xamarin? We know that we're using Unity. Let's go straight to Unity, and it says, no troubles at all.
Oh, sweet.
Here is the code to get you started. And it actually tells you, well, yeah. Let's just go from the top instead of going through and describing what it does from the bottom. We'll go to include the SDK, and please download the mobile SDK, which I will click here. That is going to go ahead and download that in the background, and then it tells you go into Unity and import it. We'll do all this in the next video, but the cool part is it gives you the code and says let's just get going. We'll see here that it says get or create an instance of itself there, and this is the app ID. Yeah, because if we come up here into our URL and go to the far side of it, where is our app ID? It should have been here. There, I'm right on it. What does it end in? 25909. 25909. Great. So we've
Fantastic.
got this ID. We can come back and find it from somewhere else. It's also set up a Cognito service for us and given us credentials to log onto that Cognito service and told us where we are.
They do a lot for you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Very nice and easy to get started with. So let's finish here. In the next video, we will import these packages into Unity and we'll actually get started on the analytics stuff.
Cool.
I'll see you in the next video.
See you later.